Need to?
I need to and I want to.
Okay,
Two
great.
things.
Terrific.
For you, of the Naughty Dog live action adaptations,
Okay, here we
has
go.
this knocked Uncharted off the number one perch?
Yes, it was previously on the number one perch for me.
Yeah?
Number one in Naughty Dog production. Congratulations, Uncharted, but cheers to you for you have been knocked off the perch. All it took was 9 hours of prestige television. And just the memories of Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg in a chain pizza place in Spain was wiped from my memory. Hey, there's a map in this pizza place.
There's nothing wrong with being number two, though, is there?
Well,
You know? Anyways, if people could leave a like, that'd be great. We're going to be talking about The Last of Us in review form. Normally, this is something we'd say for our podcast, The Weekly Planet, but that's going to be, this Monday coming. And
that's too far
it's
away.
too far away. We're going to talk about Shazam 2 and a bunch of other stuff. So why not put it on a YouTube here, Mason?
Yes.
Anyway, I guess this is largely the game. I wouldn't say beat for beat, but it follows a lot of it. It did miss some key elements for me, but then there's moments where Joel is slid a ladder by Ellie. He never hits anyone with a brick, and that's kind of what I was waiting for.
Yeah, I think the core of The Last of Us, the game, is handing people a ladder when they're in need, and that happened at least twice.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's done it for me, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I feel like perhaps the first couple of episodes sort of felt they were leaning more heavily into being the game. Like there were moments where the trio were like, "How can we get past this? There's some rocks. Some rocks have collapsed on there. How can we get around this? Maybe a puzzle involving moving some weights around. I don't know." But then they sort of moved away from that, I feel, further in further episodes. Maybe they were trying to ease people out of...
Right, yeah.
I
think you're right in terms of maybe reflecting traversal and gameplay. But I think the earlier episodes for me worked more on kind of expanding the universe and seeing things that the game didn't cover. For example, even the first episode where we get the backstory of Joel's daughter, which we don't really get in the
Sounds
game.
like we both got a couple of things out of the first few episodes, James.
Yeah, absolutely.
We enjoyed it in different ways.
Yeah.
When I first saw the title card, and it was 2003, I just felt this sense of this world, it's a world without hope. But then I had an inkling about something and I looked it up, and it turned out that while the outbreak happened in August, September of 2003, the song Fever for the Flavor by Hot Action Cop.
I knew it.
That actually came out in January of 2003.
So they got it.
They had a few months of
It's in the world.
It's in the world.
Those CD singles are still
That's
out there.
right.
In Sanity music stores.
Yeah, the remains of Sanity music stores.
HMV.
And I think in present day, there's probably a lot of people sitting around campfires that are mournfully strumming Fever for the Flavor on an acoustic guitar, just for some fond memories of better times past,
Yeah.
The power of the hoochie. Got the fever for the flavor of the coochie. Ring,
No, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember my favorite song, Mason.
Yeah, of course you do.
So a complaint of this that I've seen, and on the whole, I like this a lot. For me, it maybe didn't. The last episode didn't quite stack up to the rest of it, which I will talk about.
Because it was slightly shorter?
I think that might have been part of it. Yeah, I don't, not that strictly, but I do understand also the complaint that people have of the lack of zombies, but also at the same time, for me, it felt like enough. And we got a little bit of everything that we got in the game. I think because so much of the game is sneaking through a zombie-infested whatever.
Yeah.
And you don't really need to see that 6 times along the way.
And I think, when you bring it from a video game world to the real world, things have to be cut.
Yeah.
We mentioned this before we went to air here. Joel didn't kill 300 people.
No.
But in the game...
He probably killed 40.
Right. So,
Which is a lot.
That is quite a lot for a normal man, I think. And the same with the zombie creatures. We didn't get that many, but what we got, I think, was,
Yeah, that in-earth eruption that happens. And
we got a big
Chungus. We got a big Chungus and all of those
and we
things.
We got a little leapy guy.
Yeah,
who took
absolutely.
out Kathleen,
I thought it was interesting that they changed the idea of spores. A big part of the game is that Ellie doesn't need to wear the gas mask and everybody else does, obviously, because she's already infected.
But I believe that was the case because they wanted to keep people's faces.
Totally.
You're paying for Pedro Pascal, who famously...
What are you going to say? That you wouldn't want to cover his face?
Yes. That's right. It would be ridiculous. You'd be wasting your money. You know, he probably wouldn't even show up on set some days, allegedly, and get a stand-in to do it.
That's fine, I think,
Yeah.
quite frankly. But no, I didn't mind that. Obviously, going into this, I'm like, how is this going to play? But I think the idea, it's not so much a replacement, but to evolve them in the show where they're all linked by this kind of fungus hive mind, I found really interesting. And what I also found really great about these episodes, my favorite moments, I think, were anything that expanded upon the story that we know. Not necessarily changed it, but like a better understanding of like, how does this world operate?
I guess that's what I was going for there earlier. Like, I liked, you know, if it was just sneaking from place to place and shooting, I probably would have gotten tired of this pretty quickly by episode 3, but then they mixed it up.
Well, absolutely. You know? And you mentioned episode 3, and I know this is a lot of people's favorite episode. It's the Frank and Bill episode where, look, I know there's also talk of like, well, there's just, you know, this is just filler and whatever, but I didn't feel that at all. And I think even showing that dynamic of that relationship reflects on how two people can find themselves in this like apocalyptic scenario and how at the end of it, that can be detrimental to everybody. Because if one person gives up, you know, the other person is like, I'm also giving up.
Okay, you're right. But I love the idea of like two people making a world in this and kind of making their own world, making the best of it. And they had their own sort of passions, and Frank had his art. And then at the end, sort of Frank has become quite sick and he wants to end it all. And Bill makes him a beautiful, you know, last meal, and they have the perfect day and what have you. And then they drink the poison cocktail. But I think Bill should have hidden a gun in Frank's mashed potatoes. And then added a little tripwire. Frank goes for the green beans, bang! Because then Bill gets to do his favourite thing, you know? Frank had his art, and Bill gets to make a little trap.
There wasn't a lot of crafting little traps in this, is there?
No,
like
there
the
wasn't.
game. You know that tin with nails in it that you can make in the game?
Yeah.
Nobody pulled up to a workbench at any point, you know, to craft a weapon. Or maybe that did happen.
Well, Bill did.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. He absolutely did. He did a lot of that episode, didn't he? But I think that idea of like his life was pointless and then his life was given meaning. Yeah. And then when that meaning was taken away from him, it became pointless again. And I think that's a really that's an interesting relationship that we see in multiple characters throughout this series.
But also, they had a good run.
They had a great run.
Fact,
that's best case scenario.
I think one of them said, hey, we've had a great innings.
Yeah.
We've hit it for 6 for so many years.
Now let me just tuck into these mashed potatoes. Bang!
Ha ha! Gotcha. Oh, you got me, Bill. You got me. I love you.
I also really liked the expansion with the inclusion of Melanie Linsky as Kathleen, a character who's not in the game at all, and seeing what happens when one of the government zones falls apart, and what happens to a person who loses somebody in that scenario, who goes completely mad and blind with rage, which is something we're going to be seeing, well, in this season and also later seasons, no doubt, where you just can't let something go. And that ultimately is her and a lot of people's undoing in that scenario. Like, she won. The QZ was taken over. Yeah, and I know she lost her brother among that, but maybe she lost herself also, Mason, is what I'm saying.
Oh, it's a metaphor.
So that's the kind of stuff that I really like. The addition of, the two brothers that they run into when they made one of them deaf, and just what an interesting scenario, like an interesting wrinkle to add to it. What I liked about this is there's not really a minute wasted. The episodes are as long as they need to be. And I think that's a credit, to, both Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, in particular Craig Mazin, because he, of course, worked on Chernobyl. They're just, if it needs to be 43 minutes, then that's exactly what it's going to be. And I think every episode is the right length, except for the last one.
Oh, but that one is the one that's 43 minutes,
I know,
James.
Mason. It's something else that I think is great.
Go on.
The elaboration on Ali's and Joel's backstory is incredible. I think the idea, again, that we find more about his relationship, who he, like, what... I was going to say the love that he finds, after his daughter dies. And it is a love, to an extent, but there's a moment...
Australia's own Anna Torv.
Exactly.
You didn't tell me Anna Torv was in this.
I told you 10 times, Mason.
You didn't tell me this series was good. I would have started on early. You never said at all that it was good. Nobody on the internet said it was good.
Yeah, by the way, Mason shotgunned this whole thing in a day.
I watched every episode today. I worked 9 to 5. And let me tell you, what a hell of a way to make a living. I'll tell you that much.
But, he's also a guy where, if that relationship gets to the point, where she's infected, she's like, well, you need to go. And he's just like, well, I will. There's no like, oh no, we gotta. He's just like, okay, and he's gone.
Yeah.
And I love that about him, And we also find later
Plenty
on.
other chicks in the QZ, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, for now. Till they're all murdered or infected or whatever.
Plenty of bloody other bloody Aussies down in the bloody. I'll just go to a bloody local bar.
I think that. Yeah.
They'll be bartending.
They probably would be, yeah. But I also think with Ali's backstory, and we see this in, a little bit of the game expansion and also the comic book, which we talked about actually on bigsandwich.co. We've got a private thing and we do a comic book club and we talked about it.
That's
if you're
right.
interested. But, and getting into, and they wait for this to the last episode of why specifically she's immune. It's the Blade scenario.
That's right.
From the movie Blade.
Yes, her mother was attacked.
Yep.
Who is that's the
Original Ali, yeah.
the voice capture and the
Yes.
motion capture, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
In a way, she is the mother of Ellie.
They
she?
They both turn up. The original Joel and Ali,
Yeah, right.
and a bunch of other people who are in the games also like pop up here and there, which is great.
Is Cliff Bleszinski in it?
I don't think Cliff Bleszinski is in it.
Okay, all right.
Is John Romero in it?
I'm wondering. Bring them all in, I say. Is Shigeru Miyamoto in this?
I think he's probably in it.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, he's tending bar.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah, I think that you do really run the risk of specifically kind of pointing out why Ali is immune. I think, sometimes when you over-explain something, especially something scientific, you kind of you run into further questions.
People will punch holes in your your scientific explanation. Yeah,
but this is kind of a fantastical scenario, and it's vague enough where some of it got through, and and changed her brain just a little bit, but not enough where she was completely infected. And I think that's as good as an explanation that we really need.
You can just say, it's a 1 in a million, whatever.
Yeah,
because otherwise people would attempt to recreate it.
Absolutely,
they'd meet a nice Australian bartender. Just. This is for the future of the species, darling.
Yeah, you get it.
You get it. We're trying to manufacture a cure here is what's going on.
You're only doing $7 an hour plus tips anyway. What do you care?
Do you have anything about this being big time dad content?
Oh my God, Mason, the biggest
We're in an era of big time dad content, more than ever.
Well, I think what this did so well was gradually developing the relationship between Ali and Joel. Like we recently talked about the movie 65,
sure.
which is also big time dad content.
Absolutely.
Where, we get a dad father figure looking after a little girl. And look, obviously that's a movie about dinosaurs.
Obviously.
Set 65 million years in the past, etc. But I feel like tonally that's kind of all over the place. And we talked about it on our podcast.
And I think the essence of daddom holds true regardless of the time period.
I completely agree. And that movie proved that. But also this obviously has the luxury of being, like a 9-episode series. But I think it was gradual enough where you see the little moments between them, and one of them kind of gets through to the other one and then they shut down, and then the other one gets through to them and then they shut down, and there's kind of this push and pull because they've both been hurt so much, and just the idea of opening up to somebody and what that would mean, because if you have to care about somebody, then that's more dangerous for you.
That's true.
And I think what a
Because
fascinating...
you can't just leave them in an exploding building.
No, exactly.
For example,
Yeah, exactly. And I think this series does a really good job of showing like how powerful love can be and what the lengths you will go to.
How powerful guns can be.
How powerful guns can be also. Especially, when you don't have many guns.
It's true.
Having a gun is pretty cool in this scenario, isn't it?
But that's what all the background characters are saying. Wow, that was pretty cool.
This is great. I think that's...
Was that the Fonz who just shot me in the head? That was so cool. He's just shot that jukebox and it's playing now.
It's playing Fever for the Flavor. But I think, this also speaks to how this whole thing wraps up, which again we're going to get into, that how it also brings out the worst in people, where you'll do terrible, terrible things to protect somebody.
Or a battery.
Or a battery even.
You'll kill people to get a battery.
Get a car going. Apparently, the way they use petrol in this world, it's not right. Apparently, that's not accurate to how petrol operates. So, big time complaint for me on that one, obviously.
Because they go... Well, this goes to your point earlier about how if you explain something, people will pick holes in the explanation.
Sure.
Joel says in this show that the petrol degrades.
Yeah.
But apparently it degrades faster than they said in the show.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, right.
And it's completely useless at this point. Who knows? But it's a fictional world where 2003 was invaded by fungus zombies and whatever.
That's
so,
true.
the petrol can... Maybe the spores got into the petrol. There is no spores, Mason. What was I thinking in saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't care at all. Now, I felt that the final episode, as I alluded to and said specifically, was like rushed. I think if anything, like that's one where you really kind of need to take your time on. It felt like they went Ellie's backstory when she was born, which I really liked. Their last moment together where they're like, we can't really say it, but we love each other. There's a gas grenade. Joel wakes up, Ellie's in surgery. He does a big murder, then it's over. I feel like there's room in there to kind of stretch that out a bit. And I don't mean to kind of to make it just like, God, this is
You're
going
not telling
forever.
Craig Mazin his business.
I'm not. Look, what would I know? How would I? This is
That
better
dude's Mazin.
This is better than anything.
He's Mazin at writing stuff.
He is. This is better than anything I could ever say or do.
Wow.
But then I thought, right, you watched this back to back to back. So maybe you didn't feel that way because you got a bunch
I
of
was like, thank God this is over.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But you got to kind of shotgun everything at once.
That's true. So I imagine a lot of people waited a full week for the finale and were like, 43 minutes, not enough. But I thought it was quite well paced, and just that Joel's kind of turn and his decision.
Yeah.
It felt like, he went in there already knowing what he was going to do.
Yeah.
It's like he didn't need the time. He was just like, I am going to
Yeah,
kill
no, it's not
everyone.
even that. I think even just more moments with them.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, and because of those moments I really like. And I don't need like more moments where they crawl through a pipe and there's a zombie in there, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about more kind of character moments.
Well, that's how they get you, because you want to be back for next season.
Well, that is true.
They'll be like, there's going to be 17 more minutes.
I'd be really interested to know, though, for people who haven't played through the game and seeing this scenario play out, did you feel that way? Like, I don't know whether I'm alone in this because we're recording it pretty closely after watching it. Because I think as an experience, and I haven't played the game I've completed a couple of times, probably in like 5 or 6 years. I just love the way that ending is paced. But it's different also because you got to run through a hospital and machine gun people and you got to physically do it. And again, that's not the stuff I want. I don't need to see Joel machine gunning more people. That's, again, not what I'm talking about. But I'm wondering if anybody else feels that way.
Because the decision, Joel, for people maybe who's watching this and they haven't watched the show, I don't know. But Joel needs to make the decision because the doctors think they can find a cure for this virus if they cut open Ellie's brain and it's going to kill her. And so he's made the decision to save her at possibly the expense of all of humanity. And then afterwards, she asks him point blank, what happened back there? And he's like, it didn't work. Yeah, they did it on some other people and it didn't work. So this is fine actually. And what I thought, I think she knows. She knows.
Oh, absolutely.
She knows, right?
And there's a really great podcast.
The Weekly Planet.
It's the Weekly Planet. It's our podcast. But there's an okay podcast that it has Craig Mazin, Neil Druckmann. It's on the HBO YouTube channel where they break down basically every episode, and it also has original Joel. And it's also got...
this podcast sounds incredible. Why are people watching this?
Great question. And it's got original Ali as well for the final episode. But, they kind of break down that final moment and they all kind of have different ideas of what it means. And for me, I think it is that she knows, and then in him just point blank lying to her. Like, she doesn't know specifically what happened.
No.
I think that's something which will then carry over into season 2. And you even see that in the game. Like, their relationship, when you pick up in The Last of Us Part 2, like, it's strained.
Yeah.
And it's also because she's older and she's like, I don't need you bothering me all the time.
You're not even my real dad.
I don't think there's a scene like that specifically, but it's better written than that.
My dad, that mushroom guy over there.
That's right.
But, yeah, no, you're right, because... I mean, the relationship that the characters develop over the season is essentially Joel is the only person Ellie trusts.
Yeah.
And at the end of this, she's like, and then he just straight up lied to me.
That's
so
right.
I guess, no, I can't trust anybody.
Yeah, and I guess...
that mushroom guy.
Except for the mushroom guy, yeah. And I guess, she just has to be okay with it. But just seeing him doing a big callous murder and just it was... almost like Terminator-like, it just kind of switch off his brain and just go, kill this guy. Oh, this guy's not dead. I'll just shoot him point blank. And it's pretty much beat for beat as it is in the game. And then he, eventually comes up against...
Maybe for you. For me, I'm just like, I'm getting stuck in corners and I'm shooting into the wall and I got to reload my save.
And, he makes that decision at the end in the car park to shoot Marlene. I understand why he did it, but that to me is just like, Jesus, you've probably taken this a bit too far. And I guess here's a question. And this is interesting because it speaks to like when they were apparently testing the original Last of Us game, right? Okay. This is before it came out.
Yes, they should put big yellow X's on all the breakable items in the show.
That's a big deal.
I'm saying. Yeah.
What's in there? Maybe Mortal Kombat 2 is in there. I enjoyed seeing Mortal Kombat 2.
I enjoyed, they often say like, if you took, all the the things in your life that are distracting you away, and you just like walk down to the shops, everything you would see would be amazing.
Absolutely,
And I
yeah.
appreciated it that Ellie is seeing that. Like, it's her first time in a car.
Yeah.
It's a,
She's like, you went on a plane?
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. I
things
thought that
like
was delightful.
She saw a porno magazine.
She saw a porno magazine. That's right.
And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Seeing a porno magazine.
She saw an elevator. Wait, she saw an escalator.
She did, yeah. And that's cool too.
What if she'd seen an elevator?
Wow. I think everybody would have been like, we've never seen that. That's new, actually. Let's all stop and look at this. But no, I wanted to, I guess, ask you and ask other people, was this the right thing to do? And I think maybe right is like the wrong way to look at it also.
Do you mean what Joel did? Or do you mean make the series The Last of Us?
No, what Joel did, because and right, I guess, in terms of understanding his decision, right? Because bearing in mind, and people have a variety of opinions on this, well, it's really the two. Like, he should have sacrificed Ellie because it would have been better for humanity, but also how could he have done that? Because he's essentially, she's essentially his daughter at that point, right? And look, I know people are gonna, there'll be comments like, well, obviously you should have done the best thing for humanity and whatever, but I don't think...
I would have found a third way
exactly
that made everyone happy, so...
But I think it's not... It's the trolley problem, right? Where it's a no-win scenario. And what's interesting about when they tested this scenario in the game is people who played it who weren't a parent, 50% were against Joel, 50% were with Joel.
Okay.
If you were a parent, you were 100% with him or understood the actions that he took.
Interesting.
And that's where I stand on. Like, I have kids, but you don't have kids that you know about.
That's right. Hell yeah, brother.
What do you think in terms of how do you perceive what he did?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean,
you would have done a third thing.
Yeah. What I would have done is The Last of Us one of those games where if you just leave the character alone for long enough to make a decision, like a weird out of place thing happens, like an anvil falls on his head or something.
He lies on the ground and starts tapping his foot like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I bet he does. That's right.
But no, do you see what I'm saying?
I do see what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I could let those doctors cut her head open.
Yeah.
Because she'd die and it probably wouldn't work, honestly.
Yeah, well, I think...
What if they did and then they're like, oh, actually, I forgot to sterilize his scalpel, so this isn't going to work. It just slipped my mind because I have mushrooms in my head.
I haven't done this for a while.
Yeah.
I'm also a horse doctor. I'm not a regular person doctor. I'm a chef. I do work with mushrooms, and that's why they got me
right.
here. But maybe I'm underqualified. I think and I don't think there is a right answer, but I think the best case scenario is you wake up Ellie and it's a conversation. When you take that agency away from her.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's her decision to make. And I know she's 14, but she's still a person, right?
True.
And she's still a person in this world where people do grow up quicker,
That's true.
Because that's the scenario. And I think if that's a sit-down...
Say bad words and everything.
That's right. Like, that's a sit-down scenario where, they can talk it through and say goodbye. Maybe that goes better, right? But also... It's interesting because Joel knows that, because when Marlene is like, that she would probably have, chosen to do this thing. She's probably right.
Right.
But that's not something that he is willing to give up or go back to.
Ellie, let's just sit down and talk about this, and we'll enjoy this delightful meal of mashed potatoes. There it is. And bang! Ha ha! Gotcha.
I learned that from Bill or Frank. I don't know.
One of those guys.
One of those guys, mate. I also want to talk a little bit about season 2.
Okay.
There will be some spoilers for the game if you have not played it.
I haven't played it, but I don't care about spoilers.
Okay, well, here we go, yeah.
Does everything work out great for everybody?
Yeah,
in the whole world?
Yeah, they find a cure. It was in the potatoes.
That's great.
Yeah.
I knew it would have been in the potatoes.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Well, you were alluding to it the whole time, weren't you?
That's right.
What I think is interesting about The Last of Us Part 2, and there's been a lot of discourse around it since it came out, and I've talked about it a little bit, is that I like the story. I like the idea of it, like the idea that Joel basically gets what is coming to him. Like, the daughter of the surgeon finds him and kills him.
Yeah, right.
And he deserves that, right? Because he didn't even hesitate.
Yeah.
The surgeon's like, no, I don't think I should wake her up. Bang.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that's
He wasn't even like, plead your case, doc.
Yeah.
I'm here with open ears and an open heart.
And I know people do see him as like the protagonist and the hero of the game, but when I remember playing that game and you walk into, the theater at the end, and it's all set up for surgery, I didn't immediately start shooting everybody. Right. Whereas in, when you see Joel just actually do it, there is like no hesitation. Because when you come in as a player, for me, it's like, you assess it. You're like, what is...
You switch on your detective vision.
That's right.
You look for hidden traps and
Any anvils, etc.
audio logs.
Yeah,
They didn't even look for any audio logs.
They didn't look for a single thing.
Hey, it's me, the doctor, and I just, life got to make this big decision. I don't know.
Yeah.
This really humanizes me. And I've got a wife and I've got 17 kids. Is that too many kids? Does that make you more sympathetic or less sympathetic? I don't know. Anyway, I've got to go do the surgery. Beep.
So seeing kind of Joel I wouldn't even say maybe comeuppance, but just repercussions. Because this is a horrible universe and he did a horrible thing. But I like that story and how it pivots to Allie and another new character.
Oh, Smelly.
Smelly.
Her secret sister.
Yeah. Right.
And to be in this universe and be nicknamed Smelly.
Oh my God.
You got to be pretty
You got to
smelly.
be pretty smelly, don't you? Yeah.
This show, I tell you this much.
What's that?
Really makes you appreciate the little things. Like being able to take a hot shower whenever you want, you know?
Oh my goodness. You're absolutely right. Yeah. But yeah, so...
Little outfits.
Little
Changing my
outfits.
little outfits. Let me ask you this, James, before you get to
If
that
you
note,
lose a jacket, you're just like, how do I...
Side note for you, how would you dress in the apocalypse?
Well, that's a great question.
The
Do I have
same as
choice?
this?
Yeah, probably.
You've got options, yeah.
Jeans and boots and a denim jacket.
I think I'd be one of those guys. I'd make
a
the
double denim.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty good. That's, durable. I think I'd make the choice to be one of those guys that wears a jacket and tie everywhere to maintain a little bit of decorum. Except like
that.
the sleeve is ripped off and, I'm
yeah.
all scuffed up and what have you. My glasses, one of them's broke.
Yeah.
My lenses are broken.
You've got a wine glass, but it's just like a horrible
spit.
homebrew and spit. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, so the game is split mostly between Allie and Abby, who was the one who kills Joel. And I like that dynamic, and it's a character where when I was initially playing, it's like, why would I want to play half of this game as this other person I don't know?
Why would I want to play part of this game as a murderer?
Yeah, that's a great question, yeah.
Real ethical dilemma here.
But I did find that the narrative of that was really drawn out, and I don't think the gameplay lined up with what was happening. Because there'd be moments where there is this in the first game, but I felt it more in the second game, where you kill 100 people to get into a room and then you kill a person in a cutscene. And it's like, what have I done? It's like, well, I killed 100 people to get here. So this doesn't really
But now I've killed
line
a
up.
main character.
That's right,
I used my detective vision and they were gold.
I think that can all be kind of streamlined when you when you basically strip out the gameplay.
Yeah.
I think the narrative there is great.
Okay.
But The Last of Us, like the first one, is I think it's like less
Called
than
The First of Us.
It's called The First of Us. It's like less than half the length of the second game.
Right.
And there's just there's just too much in that second game.
Okay.
And I think I would like to see that whittled down. But speaking of the second season, season 2 will be different just as this season was different. Sometimes it will be different radically and sometimes it won't be fairly different at all, but it's going to be different. It will be its own thing. It won't be exactly like the game. It will be a show that Neil and I want to make, but we are making it with Bella. So basically, there's all of that basically to say that there could be some major changes here. And the other thing is they've hinted that it's very possible that it could be multiple seasons.
Ooh.
And I think, look, I'm sure HBO would be like, yeah, if you could split this into more seasons.
Yeah,
that
right.
would
Well,
be
you were
good.
saying that the second game is twice as long, at least?
Yeah, but I think it's drawn out for reasons that maybe I think it shouldn't necessarily be. But also, it's got two protagonists.
That's true.
Or antagonists, because they don't like each other also.
Couple antagonists.
Couple antagonists. Is there a Tango and Cash joke in there? Probably not, isn't there? Protagonist and...
No, there's a Stop or My Mom Will Shoot reference in there. Right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, yeah.
No, so is season 2 going to have significantly less Joel, do you think?
I think, he'll probably make it at least 2 episodes.
Terrific.
And then there'll be flashbacks.
There'll be
whatever,
flashbacks.
yeah.
They'll be in the car and he'll be like, a lesson that I forgot to tell you, but I'm telling you now. You're going to need this later is go to a workbench and build a little trap thing.
Yeah.
You know?
You're going to love that. Anyway, I guess the most important thing is that this show they put the giraffe in it. When I saw that 43 minutes, I'm like, have they got time for the giraffe? Because that was a pretty pivotal moment for me. Seeing the giraffe.
And they did it for real.
They did it
it's
for real. It's
for
a
real
for real
giraffe.
giraffe. They
But
actually
probably
did it.
CGI monkeys.
But no, all in all, I think just what a great adaptation.
Good
like
show.
you'd think there was talk of it, being a movie at different times and whatever, and I just don't think you could do this in a movie.
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah, not well. I mean, Uncharted was a movie, and that was the best.
Oh, Uncharted was a movie.
Yeah, that was the best movie of 2016.
That's true.
The
What
year
else
that-
has Naughty Dog done that can be turned into a great TV series or a terrible movie?
Didn't they do Ratchet and Clank or the other one?
Maybe. Yeah, Banjo or Kazooie.
It wasn't that. It was something else.
Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Crash Bandicoot, and Jack and Daxter.
There we go.
So there you go.
Terrific. For me, the zombie survival shows and movies are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
But I think it's the developing relationship between Joel and Ellie. I thought the Pascal and Ramsey.
Yeah.
What a duo.
Absolutely.
Very, very.
A real Tango and Cash.
A real Tango and Cash.
Because they weren't friends and then they were friends
That's
and they
right.
loved each other.
That's right.
And they high-fived.
Oh, bring them on for the Tango and Cash remake. Put them together in a movie or something.
Absolutely.
No?
Yeah. I'll be curious to know what people think. Like, did it come together? I think as a whole, it definitely did. But again, I just had those kind of minor gripes with the last episode. But I'm really interested to see what they do next and how it is changed, because often they'll change something if they can make it better, or they'll just do it exactly the same.
That's true.
And I think it'll be interesting to see like what specifically does that apply to in a game and a story like the second one, which I think a lot of people think like isn't as strong as the first one. Remains to be seen. Anyways, Mason, don't we have a podcast and it's got its own YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called The Weekly Planet.
Yeah.
And on it, we talk movies and comics and TV shows. It comes out every Monday. Unless you want to hear that early, it's actually at bigsandwich.co, which is like our private Patreon. There's bonus podcasts. Like we mentioned, we've got that comic book club where we talked about that. The only Last of Us comic book that they have made as of so far.
We got it. It's only one copy in the world.
That's
we
right.
paid a premium fee for it.
And you have to pay to listen to us talk about it.
That's right.
Yeah. We also do movie commentaries and a bunch of other stuff there that's exclusive and ad-free if you are interested. But yeah, thank you for listening to this. Sorry there's not more pictures. Collingsley was like, I can do an edit, I swear. And I'm like, just don't. You don't have to this time.
Just don't.
Just don't do a big edit this time. I'll put a nice giraffe background and that will be fine.
Wow.
All right, I'm at Mr. Sunday Movies on Twitter.
I'm at Wikipedia Brown on Twitter.
Let's go our separate ways.
Some songs that this society missed out on.
What else?
Because they were released in 2004. Green Day's American Idiot.
Ooh, that was
Makes
political.
and they could have used it in this, I reckon.
Definitely.
Drop It Like It's Hot, Snoop Dogg.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Senorita by Justin Timberlake.
Probably.
Sorry, Senorita was 2002. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Anyway, grab that jam, you guys. We'll see you in the next video.
Oh, Somewhere Only We Know by Keen.
Keen.
That's a big
That's
song.
a blast from the past.
That's
Keen.
right. Yeah.
Wow. I'd be keen to hear a little bit of Keen. I'll just check on Spotify.
Oh, your favorite song, U2's Vertigo.
No.
Woo! Woo! I bet it plays better in a big stadium if everybody wooing along. I wouldn't go, but I bet.
No, you'd go, but you wouldn't woo. You'd
You're right.
stand in the stadium. You'd sit in the stadium with your arms
I'd
crossed.
say boo.
Nice.
Yeah.